welcome back to the Slice Tennis Podcast. Thanks for being here, presented by our friends at Betway. This week's episode is a little different. JP Hubby is on the road, so he cannot make the recording, but that is okay, even though we will miss him. We had a very special guest join us, Brad Stine, current coach of Tommy Paul, the current number 12 player in the world, and as of this week, as we discussed in the episode or in the interview, the number one American player in the world. Wimbledon is starting. There's so much action about to be had in the tennis world, and Brad helps us breaks down Tommy's game on the grass, what winning in Queens meant to him, talks about a little bit of the controversy around it. We get into lots of things. Team Tommy Paul right now is in a great place heading into Wimbledon, and it's going to be an exciting time for him. I personally think he's got a great draw, and since Brad's a professional, he kept his mind on the first round and maybe the second round, but we looked at it in general and think he's in a pretty good place to make the quarterfinals and play Carlitos Alcaraz possibly. So without any more delay, here's our interview. Sit down for another time with Brad Stine, coach of Tommy Paul. All right, welcome back to the Slice Tennis Podcast. Brad Stine, coach of Tommy Paul. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Feeling pretty good right now.
You must be, as what's been going on with your team here in the last few weeks. Obviously, you're at Wimbledon. What are the vibes like on the ground at Wimbledon?
Everything's ramping up. We got here on Wednesday. We came in and moved into our Airbnb on Monday. Tommy took Monday and Tuesday off, and we started practicing on Wednesday. And it was pretty quiet, actually. It's one of the nice things about being here on the grounds the week before the tournament. A little bit quiet, a little bit relaxed, a little bit chill, and then obviously as the week goes on, things start ramping up more and more. And there's tons of people around finishing up details on the grounds and doing all that. And then today there were a lot of people on the grounds watching practice. I don't know if it was members or if they had an open day for people to come in. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there were quite a few people on the grounds today watching practice. And tomorrow will be nice and quiet. The club is closed on Sundays, so everybody practices at the practice site. It's called a Rangay. And I never understood why it's called a Rangay, but kind of a strange name. But yeah,
found out?
So I have no idea, no clue why it's called a Rangay.
Okay.
So no one practices at the championship courts tomorrow because the club is actually closed on Sundays, and so it's pretty quiet on Sunday. Basically, the quiet before the storm, and then Monday, obviously, first thing when the gates open, they have to make announcements for people not to run into the grounds and everything because everyone's piled up trying to get in, and it'll be a madhouse. It'll be a madhouse starting on Monday.
So it's like a paintball arena where they're like, "Don't run, you can only walk." Like,
yeah, they make this announcement every morning when they open the gates to the public. For people, please not to run. It's Wimbledon. You have to. There's a certain decorum that's required no matter what.
Yeah, it's like act like you've been here before. Like even if you have.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being here before, you've been on the Slice before, and I just wanted to say I appreciate you coming back on and being a friend of the show, as we say. So yeah, you're our main coaching contact for getting the technical view of the game, so that I can sound a little bit like I at least know what's going on.
I appreciate that. No, I've always enjoyed coming on.
Sweet. Well, you should be enjoying a lot of things right now. Tommy Paul obviously wins the biggest title of his career last week at Queens. We're going to get into that, but in general, what would you say the grass does for Tommy's game?
I think that we've built Tommy into being an all-court attacking style tennis player. And, anyone that's kind of followed Tommy for the last couple of years has seen a little bit of that evolution of how he comes forward a lot more. I think he's, I would say he and probably Grigor Dimitrov are the two most attacking tennis players in the game right now. Tommy, obviously mixes in serve and volley well. He likes to attack and come in behind guys' second serves. That puts a lot of pressure on guys. And then within the context of the points, I mean, he's just always looking for opportunities to come forward. And, despite the fact that the grass is obviously much different than it was in the olden days, it's still grass, and it's still tough to move, and it's still tough to pass. And there's definite advantages to coming forward and getting yourself to the net on grass. And Tommy does a very good job of that, and putting pressure on guys and making guys uncomfortable with his game.
Yeah, you can see that in how he plays. You guys probably look at the stats after every match, but I think, and I don't have them in front of me, I probably should, but from his last couple matches in Queens, his second serve win percentage is very high, I feel like, sometimes compared to other players. Is that, do you see his second serve as one of the best on the tour?
Yeah, it's interesting because the nature of how you play on grass has changed so much over the last couple decades. The grass is so much better. The courts are really, really hard. The balls bounce, for grass, they bounce relatively high. Depends on how you hit the ball. That's one of the things that, the grass lends itself to Tommy's game also, especially on the backhand side, because his backhand is so flat and it stays really low on the grass in general. And then he's really added the use of slice backhand, which is always effective on the grass. But it gives him an opportunity to make guys uncomfortable in ways on grass that he doesn't necessarily enjoy as much on some of the other surfaces. A little bit on hard, but it's still different. The ball just comes up more on the hard. So the opportunities that he gets here on the grass, it just benefits his game in a lot of ways. And on second serve, the thing that's interesting is that in the old days, we used to talk to guys all the time about not hitting kick serves. And Tommy's got a great kick serve. I think he has one of the best kick serves on tour, maybe the best kick serve on tour. And but in the old days, guys really didn't hit kick serves on the grass. Everybody kind of looked at slicing more on the grass and trying to keep the ball down. But the kick serve has become pretty effective because most guys aren't looking to come forward. They're not looking to attack the ball. And even on the grass, a lot of guys are returning from a little bit deeper in the court. So Tommy's second serve becomes very, very effective. Just his natural motion and his natural kick that he uses has become and is very effective on the grass.
Yeah, you can see it. What did winning, you've talked to me before about, hit your goal. One of the things you want to see him do, obviously, is like win tournaments. The ranking getting better is obviously great, but winning tournaments is big. And, winning your first ATP 500 is huge. So what did that do for Team Tommy?
Yeah, I think, last time I was on, I think we talked about this a little bit. For me, it's a stepping stone. It's a progression to getting to the ultimate goal of where we want to get to, which is winning, the biggest titles, having a chance, or at least contending for it, the opportunity to have a chance to win a Grand Slam, win Masters 1000s events. I think that, winning a 500 like he did here is just a stepping stone towards that progression. Is the next step is to try and go deep, which he's done. He's been in a couple semis of Masters 1000s now. So we know he's close. It's taking that next step, and there's always a big difference between going deep in a tournament and the old saying on the tour, which is very common, is like, oh, great week, hey, he had a great week, but yeah. The difference between a great week and winning is a big difference, and I think both from the standpoint, obviously, the points, the money, everything gets bigger as if you win the events, but also just for your confidence. I mean, it's an amazing confidence builder to win a title. And to win a 500 for Tommy, he'd been in a final before of the 500, but to win. And I think also he understood and understands the significance and the history of Queen's Club event. For me, because I'm a little, I'm a junior historian, I think, of tennis, and it's amazing that trophy that they give there, which I think is one of the biggest trophies, if not the biggest trophy in tennis. The perpetual trophy that the guy doesn't get to keep, but you look on that trophy and the first etching on the trophy for the winner was in 1890. And to have your name added to that trophy, and you look through the list of guys that have won that event, and it's a who's who of the greatest players in the history of tennis. So, to have Tommy Paul be able to have his name on that trophy is a pretty big deal.
And getting over the line is huge. So Tommy's serving for the match in the final. I believe he served for the match in the semifinal as well.
Yes.
You probably remember it a little more clearly than I do. Maybe your nerves were a bit more elevated, but Tommy's serving for the match, and Musetti hits some crazy returns, and yeah, he gets broken. So what is you guys talking about that? What did you see Tommy do there that you liked, where he was able to, not even give away the set, although it's very hard to get over the line. What did you see there when he went to that tiebreaker and then got it done?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that, again, if you're a Tommy Paul fan and you've kind of followed Tommy Paul over the last number of years, all the matches in Queens, especially, but this has become a pretty common thing with him in general. Is that his mental consistency, his mental toughness under those circumstances has really improved a lot. And you're absolutely right. He served for the match against Korda in the semis, ended up losing serve, and then goes to a breaker and won that one in a breaker also. Luckily, both those matches didn't end up going to 3, but
yeah.
And against Musetti, same thing. I mean, and those matches were very similar. Both guys, Korda and Musetti, started playing absolutely an insane level of tennis. It wasn't like they were playing top 10 tennis. They were playing like top 3 tennis with the way they were ball striking. I think they're feeling no pressure at that point, and they were just kind of letting it rip a little bit. Maybe tension goes out of their body and they freed themselves up, but they started playing astounding tennis. The game that Lorenzo Musetti broke Tommy on when Tommy was serving at 5-4, 5-3. The very first point, Tommy hit a pretty good wide serve out to the forehand, and the guy clocked a forehand down the line for a winner. And then in that game, he hit 2 more. He hit an unreturnable ball off of a return on the deuce side, and then on break point, got a look at a second serve and stepped in 2 feet inside the baseline and hit a backhand as clean as you can hit it down the line for a clean winner. And that really, Tommy didn't do anything wrong in that game. That's the thing, he didn't really have a chance to get tight. It wasn't like he got tight, and kind of gave it away, because Lorenzo was just playing so aggressively and so big in the game. And then, I think the biggest thing, what I go back to, is Tommy's mental toughness. He loses serve there and he goes on the changeover and just, composes himself and comes back out and finds a way to lift his own game, to recognize, and he said it afterwards. He obviously recognized that Lorenzo all of a sudden, man, this guy's, he's lifted his level and is playing an unbelievable level right now. And I have to be able to do the same. And really was. And there was a little bit, the only real hiccup was, I think it was 4-all, was either, or maybe it was 4-3 up a break, even a mini break for Lorenzo. And Tommy made a return and he tried to play a drop shot on the first ball. It was a little bit of a checkout point on his part, and that gave Tommy some life in the breaker. And then he ended up, the breaker was pretty unbelievable. I don't even remember. I think it was 10-8 or 11-9 in the end.
10-8.
Yeah. So, obviously very tense moments in what was going on there, and it was nice to see Tommy actually be able to come through and not have to go to a third set.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Are you shouting things to him like, stay in the moment, or does he kind of, at this stage, he kind of knows what to think? Like, I didn't do anything wrong in that game. I just got broken. And you can kind of get over it.
Yeah, Tommy actually, he's pretty good in those moments. I try to recognize and not interject myself too much into those like most tense moments, unless I feel like there's something really beneficial that I can say to him. Just trying to be positive. I did make one comment, and Tommy's done this a few times, where he'll just very casually kind of be like, I got this. Basically, I think he's saying like, look, I'm locked in. I'm in the moment. I don't need anything to go on. And I think as a coach, you have to respect that. It's not my position at that point. He's trading points back and forth from, 6-7, 7-8, what's going on in that breaker. And he needs to be like fully and completely locked in and engaged with what's going on. So I think part of being a good coach sometimes is knowing when not to coach. And that was a moment where it was like, I mean, he actually indicated, and it's like, I'm more than happy to be quiet and just be supportive, of what's going on in the points at that juncture of the match.
Yeah, cool. Tommy's now the number one American. I believe it's the second time you've coached someone to be the number one American. Is that right? Or was Courier already the number one when you got him?
No, he wasn't. Jim was. I mean, when we started, he was ranked around 28 or 29 or something like that. There were definitely guys ahead of him. I was trying to think if it was more than two guys, but I'm not sure. But
I
no,
know. I was looking through your Wikipedia page. I don't know how accurate that is, but I did get some nuggets off there that I'll use later.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's two players, and in Tommy's case, he's going to lose it again on Monday because Fritz just won Eastbourne, and Tommy was defending Eastbourne finals last year, and we didn't go. He withdrew from Eastbourne, so we knew that was the case. He's going to have been the number one American for 1 week, and then Wimbledon. I think Fritz lost second round last year, and Tommy lost third round. So Wimbledon, will have a bearing on it, and then you've got Ben breathing down both of their necks, trying to. Ben is actually, he got to be the number one American for a short period of time as well. Yep. So it's fun. I mean, it's really fun to see those guys right now. It's 12, 13, 14, Tommy, Fritz, and Ben in those positions, and they've been, leapfrogging each other a little bit, and it's great to have those guys there. I mean, I would love to see, Francis go on a run again and get himself back up into that position and be right there with those guys as well, and have it be a 4-man race for that spot.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask. I mean, he's gonna be there for 1 week, but after Wimbledon, you never know. And I'm sure Tommy will be the number one, at parts of this year coming forward. But he's kind of, the story around him's always kind of been he's like lagged behind some of these other guys as far as rankings or results coming through the juniors. Like I'm thinking about Fritz or TFO or maybe Nopelka, but. Now he's just, I think everyone that's following the tour closely right now, he's just right at the top of the game in general and at the American game. So that's got to be kind of like another layer of confidence, do you think, for him?
Yeah, I think so. It's something that I know he wanted to achieve. And, he had actually brought it up last year as a goal for himself for last year, was to try and finish last year as the number one American. And so, getting there, regardless of when it happens, is definitely a big deal. And I think that, there is a little bit of healthy competition. I think that, obviously he and Taylor are really good buddies. Ben's come on the scene, and Tommy likes Ben a lot, and so he's very comfortable with those guys. And there's obviously competition. I mean, Tommy wants to stay ahead of those guys, but at the same time, I feel like there's a healthy sense of the fact that, if Fritz has a great week, he's going to jump in front of him. And then Tommy's got to, step up and try and have a really good week someplace as well, and he's been pretty consistent this year with producing those kind of results. So hopefully we continue to do that. And it'll be interesting, I think, because, they're both playing, Fritz and Tommy are both playing the Olympics, and Ben is not. So there's a little bit of space there where Ben might be able to make up some points, but Fritz, I think, is also defending, if I'm not mistaken. I think he won Atlanta last year. So when it comes around to Atlanta and the week of the Olympics, there's a good chance that Tommy will leapfrog Taylor again wherever they're at in that position.
Oh, because he'll drop those points.
So it's gonna be a little bit of a fight, I think, through the year to see who ends up ending the year as the number one American.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And maybe it keeps you really focused week to week, right? Because your points, it's another little competition within the broader, game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that it without thinking about it as much, it pushes you to become top 10, because it's almost like to stay the top American, you almost need to be top 10. When Taylor was up to 5 in the world, 6 in the world, it was kind of like, man, he's far away now. Like he's really holding that spot down. And, you obviously are just focused on trying to produce the best results that you can week in and week out. If the motivation is to try and stay ahead of Taylor or stay ahead of Ben, that's great, because if the results are there, then hopefully it keeps pushing to the point where you're knocking on the door and getting close to being top 10. It's kind of interesting because we've mentioned it, Tommy's number 12 in the world right now, but he's actually pretty far points wise from number 10. I think he's like 750 or 800 points or something from top 10. So it's in the numbers when you look at it, 12 is obviously very close to 10, but from a point standpoint, he's still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it looks like he's got currently 500 points between 12 and 10, which is a decent gap, I guess. But if you're looking at interesting. I'm just pulling up the race to Turin right now. And where's Tommy at? He's still at 12 in the race to Turin. So no, that's going to be something interesting to watch for sure. The battle of the Americans. Turning to Wimbledon now, how do you guys feel about Tommy's draw? I got his kind of Wimbledon website has a nice route to the final. Because I know that's what you guys are looking.
The route to the final for Tommy
along the way.
If you have the route to the final for Tommy Paul, you know a lot more than me, Stephen. Because to be honest with you, I haven't looked at who he plays in the second round. I don't know who he plays the winner of. You're more than welcome to tell me who he plays the winner of if he wins. But I know he plays in the first round. He plays Pedro Martinez,
That's right.
Pedro is someone that I think both Tommy and I respect a lot as a player. He's played him a few times. He's had some tough matches with him. He's come out on top the last, I think, 3 or 4 times that they've played, but they've been tough matches, and Pedro's a guy who, despite the fact that he's a Spaniard and his best results, I think, have been on clay, he plays pretty well on faster surfaces. He's got a nice kind of flat backhand that should be pretty effective on the grass. He's not a particularly big server, which is, that's a good thing. It means that you get to get into a lot more points and everything. So, definitely focused on that match for right now. And, if he, generally, if Tommy's up 2 sets to love and a break in the third, I'll break my phone out and look and see who he plays in the next round.
Fair enough. I mean, that's the pros mentality right there. One match at a time. For us, for the pundits over here, we look, I've been breaking down the whole draw on it. So Tommy's in Carlos Alcaraz's quarter, but he's kind of in Casper Ruud's like 16th, if you'll say, or 8th, I guess. So, if he beats Martinez, he could play Virtanen or Purcell. And then if he goes through there, he could play Bublik or Bergs or Cazot. And then in the 4th round, he would play Ruud if he got there. And then Alcaraz in the quarters. And after the quarters, obviously it's supposed to be as tough as it gets.
Yeah.
But I felt like that was a better draw than it could be. Like I don't know how superstitious you are. I'm getting more superstitious, so I get a bit weird about these things.
I'm not superstitious. I'm a little bit more of a realist, Stephen. When you tell me he plays the winner of Purcell and Virtanen, I don't know if your audience knows those guys particularly well, but Max Purcell was in the finals of a grass court event this week. He's a good grass court player. And Virtanen is scary dangerous. That guy is just a big bludgeoner of the ball, massive serve. That guy could be a real nightmare to have to play on the grass. So, I look at those two names and he plays the winner of that match, and I'm like, that's not an easy match. That's for sure.
That's true. Yeah. That's good insight. I haven't really seen Virtanen play. But
he's a big kid. He's like 6'6". He's got a massive first serve, and he plays really big off the ground. And he's a Finn. He plays flat. He plays flat and like through the court.
Yeah, so that could be a nightmare on the grass.
Yeah, so he could be tough on the grass. He could definitely be scary on the grass. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him, come through that match. I mean, not to take it. I think Max Purcell is a very good grass court player. He knows what he's doing on a grass court. So I think neither of those are particularly, easy guys to look at playing in the second round. And I think that match between the two of them that's a little bit of a toss up in my mind.
Yeah, you're probably right. And as a coach, would you watch that match?
Absolutely.
Assuming Tommy gets to the first.
I mean, if the schedule allows for it, I'll definitely go and watch some of that. I watched Max play a year or so ago because Tommy had a chance of playing, or 2 years ago. He had a chance of playing Max in the second round here 2 years ago, and he ended up losing in 5 to Adrian Manarino, and we played Manarino instead. But I watched a fair amount of that match, and I watched him here just on TV a little bit the last couple of days, playing in Eastbourne.
Cool. That's great. That's a great point in context to give to fans of tennis who, look, so we've had 20 years of just being like, okay, Federer's on the top, Djokovic is on the bottom, Nadal's, whatever seeds are. Okay, let's just wait till we get to the semifinals and then the tournament starts. It's like, I think it's really interesting now with Sinner and Alcaraz. and Djokovic obviously, but those two younger guys in the 1 and 2 spots, like it's not just a guarantee for them to be in the semifinal of every major. And I really don't think that's going to be the case over the next 10 years. It has been what I've talked about on the channel a lot. So every round is hard. And I remember I talked with TSN and at the US Open last year about Felix, and people just don't understand that every round, there's no easy like draws. We kind of talk about some are better than others, but it's every round there's a player there who's like trained his entire life to like win that second round of Wimbledon versus Tommy Paul. So
exactly.
it's tough.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I actually, I think that the depth within the game just continues to get better and better. So you can't really look at ranking necessarily, and I think especially here at Wimbledon, you look at guys that are more comfortable on the grass, like a guy like Purcell, and they feel confident. I think they get confidence from playing on the grass, and the fact that you can win points quickly, and it definitely lends itself to some upsets.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's been the history at Wimbledon for sure. Seeing guys like Dustin Brown just come out here and just slay dragons,
Yeah, exactly.
on the grass. So it's pretty cool. Do you have, just from being around the ground, do you have any intel on the Novak knee? Have you seen him practice? Have you heard things?
I haven't seen him. I've seen, that he's on the grounds. I've seen some Instagram stuff here and there and everything, but I actually haven't run into him. Haven't seen him hitting balls. He's obviously not practicing at the same times that we are, but I don't really know. I don't really have any idea about what's going on. I know that Tommy, going back to Taylor Fritz, Taylor had a similar situation a couple of years ago, and Tommy had talked to Taylor and mentioned to me that that Novak had reached out to Taylor and was actually messaging him and asking him a little bit about his rehab and what he did to get back so quickly and everything. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's the mysteries of Novak continue.
Mysteries of Novak. It'll be a novel or documentary or both. So with another question, Jannik Sinner, I feel like you've probably got you've seen him play a lot over this time. He's now the new number 1 in the world. What do you feel like he was my kind of favorite coming into Wimbledon, like slight favorite if you had to pick one. What do you think the grass does to his game compared to like the clay, where I feel like maybe Alcaraz has a little bit more bite on the clay?
Yeah, I think that, obviously seeing Jannik win at Halle is a really, really good sign. I feel like in the past, he hasn't been quite as comfortable on the grass with the movement and everything else that's involved with playing on the grass. Tommy played him 2 years ago in Eastbourne, and I think he was very new to the grass at that point, and Tommy actually was able to take advantage of that and beat him in a tight match in Eastbourne. But I think after Halle, and I think obviously, Darren Cahill is an Aussie guy who understands and knows the grass inside out. So I think that there's a lot of information that Jannik's going to be getting from Darren that's going to be very beneficial to him and how he plays and what he does on the grass. I think that, with his level of confidence and where he's coming from and what's going on and his ball striking, again, he hits a relatively flat type of ball. And he's a great returner. I think that the forgotten aspect of being a great grass court player really is the return. Everybody thinks that, they look at all the big servers and those kind of guys, but a lot of times you haven't seen as many of those guys, a Karlovic or somebody like that, going quite as deep as you would have expected, because the kind of forgotten aspect of being a great grass court player is return. You got to put a lot of balls in play. If you go back and look at the stats of the return numbers for Novak, Roger, Rafa over the years, Andy, obviously when he won here, they're making an astronomical amount of returns on percentage, even against guys' first serves. But on second serves for sure, where they're just putting balls in play. And I think Jannik's becomes such a good returner and such an aggressive returner that that gives him a little bit of an advantage, I think, here on the grass.
Fair enough. And what's maybe one player that off the top of your head that is kind of an underrated or underranked player right now that people just do not want to see in the draw? Like, is there anyone that's kind of coming up in the ranks that people are like, this guy's gonna cause
Man,
problems?
that's a good question. I mean, I think a guy who's playing good tennis right now on the grass and has had a couple of good upsets over the last few weeks is Marcos Giron. He pops into my head.
Yeah.
You know, he's a low ball. He likes the ball in his slot down low. I think that's one of the reasons he's done well over the years at Dallas. That tournament, the ball stays low, and obviously on the grass, it's the same thing. So he's a guy that just pops into my head as somebody that can pull off some upsets. You know, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of anybody else that I think of as like a little bit of an outsider, but that's somebody that could be really, really dangerous. And I'm blanking a little bit right now.
Fair enough. I was thinking of that Perry Card guy. I forget his first couple names,
Yeah,
but
he lost last round of qualifying.
Tough. So
yeah,
he's
I
think a few people took a breath of fresh air after that.
Yeah, he lost to another Frenchman. He lost to Maxime Janvier in the last round of qualies. So
fair enough. It's tough to qualify. It's no easy qualifying rounds either.
No, not at all.
Okay, Brad, last segment here. We got smash or pass, which is a new one for the podcast. So I'm going to bring up topics here, and you're going to either smash them down or let them pass you to go out of bounds.
All right.
Ready?
Hit me.
Strawberries and cream.
Absolute smash.
Pims.
Absolute smash, but only after the matches are over.
What's your drink in general? Like, what are you like a whiskey fan or what?
I'm a whiskey sour guy, but Pims on a nice sunny day here at Wimbledon. A lot of people probably don't even know what Pims is, but it's almost like a bit of a sangria type of drink. It's got a little sweetness to it. It's a summertime drink for sure. So yeah. It goes well with strawberries and cream and here at Wimbledon. If you're not going to go the full route and get the champagne.
Fair enough. Smash or pass, polo. I saw some photos of you and the team at a polo match.
Absolute smash. Had a blast. My first ever polo match. There's a good story involved in that. So Tommy's become quite good friends with this guy whose name is Adolfo Cambiaso. And anybody that knows anything about polo, which isn't very many people that I know, but Adolfo is literally called the Messi of polo. He's you can Google it. He's literally considered the greatest polo player in the history of polo. Nicest guy you could possibly meet. And Tommy got to know him when he was playing over in the U.S., the U.S. polo swing. And then he's been playing over here, and he invited us out to what's called the Queen's Cup Polo Championships, which is one of their majors. And he was a part owner of a team that his son rides for. So he was there in that capacity. The team that he rode on had lost earlier in the cup. And so, yeah, we got to go to that game. And then since then, we've gone out to the place where they have all their horses, and he set us all up to go riding. We all whacked the ball around a little bit with polo mallets as best we could. And it was an absolute blast. So I'm going heavy smash on that one.
Love it. That's a cool story. That's it's crazy who you meet being a pro tennis player, I feel like.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a massive tennis fan. He loves it. He was there for the finals of Queens.
Oh, sweet. Well, that brings me to my next one. I was going to say smash or pass, Matthew McConaughey loving TP.
I mean, you got to smash. You're making these easy for me, man. That one was also a shocker. Like TP and I both didn't realize that Matthew McConaughey, one, was a tennis fan, and two, a Tommy Paul fan. So when we saw that he had, I think it was a tweet or something that he had sent out about Tommy, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Matthew McConaughey's the man. He was in Djokovic's camp. I think Djokovic almost took his head off after he won the U.S. Open, like wringing his neck in last fall. So that is cool. Okay, a few more here. Smash or pass, breaking your hand in a fight. That's something that Wikipedia let us know about.
I'm going to say pass on that for sure.
There we go. Because that happened to you when you were younger. Is that true?
Yeah,
That's like what it says, and that's why you started playing
I was a
tennis.
youngster when that happened. That's actually the story is, and it's true. It's kind of what got me into tennis. I was selected to an all-star baseball team. I was a baseball player as a kid. Had never really played tennis. This was in what was called Babe Ruth baseball at that time, which was 13 to 15-year-olds. And I was 13 and actually got selected to an all-star team as a second baseman, mostly on my defensive play. And the day before our first game, I got into a little altercation. I punched a buddy of mine in the face and broke my hand on his face. And so I was in a cast, after that for about 5 to 6 weeks. And I started playing tennis against a wall at the high school that was about a half a block from my house, left-handed. And then when I got my cast off, I kind of, played a little bit of both baseball and tennis for the next year and a half, and then ultimately switched over and started playing tennis.
Wait, and then were you a left-handed player or right-handed?
No, I was a righty. I went back to being my natural was righty.
Probably had a good backhand though.
One-hander, like most guys from that era and generation and coaches.
Okay, maybe you could have been a transformative or ahead of your times with the left hand coming over the top there. Okay, couple more. Or smash or pass, an American man winning a major in 2024 or 2025. Is it happening?
I mean, first of all, obviously smash. And is it happening? I wouldn't bet my house on it, but I think that we're getting closer and closer for sure. I mean, I think when you look at Tommy's record against guys in the top 10, when you look at Fritz's record against guys in the top 10, Ben has, very, very young in his career and has gone deep in a couple of slams already. Francis making a semi in a slam. I think that we're getting closer. We're definitely getting closer. And I think this era, with Rafa where he's at, Roger out of the game completely, Novak a little bit more of a question mark than he has been in the past. He's not just a lock to run through draws, and the rest of those guys, as great as Carlos is, as great as Sinner's been, Medvedev, Zverev, all those guys, they've shown more vulnerability than the big three or the big four did during their heyday. So there's a little bit more of an opening, I think, for some other guys to sneak in there.
Fair enough. All right, two more. Smash or pass. There was Tommy's girlfriend, Paige Lorenz, kind of broke the tennis internet last week with the photo. Do you think the criticism was warranted? Smash or pass?
The criticism was not warranted. Absolute pass. I mean, the internet trolls, whoever it is, I mean, she took a pretty big bashing. You can go online and Google it. There's 20 more pictures that you can find of guys with their girlfriends or their wives holding a trophy. It wasn't like she forced her way onto the court. She was asked to come onto the court, both by Tommy and by the tournament organizers, photographers. They all wanted that opportunity, So, to me, it's just a lot of jealousy and typical, stuff that comes from social media. And I feel really bad for her. I've, tried to be kind of pretty positive and supportive of her this week, because it's been a she obviously does a lot of stuff and spends a lot of time in that world, in the social media and internet world. And so for her to take that kind of criticism over being out on the court to support her boyfriend, I think was pretty silly.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I had to ask as a journalist, but that is good context to that. And, it's easy to hate when there's people at the top. So, you know what, you're winning. It's just part of what comes with it, I guess, in today's world. Last one, smash or pass, implementing a coach's timeout. So like the player's going downhill, should a coach be able to be like, timeout, come talk to me. Let's pause this match. Smash.
I'm going to go pass on that for now. It's funny because I was at a dinner event last night and we were talking a little bit about coaching and the coaching, the on-court coaching and all that. And I'm very in favor of all that. I think if it produces a better product for the fans, if it produces better tennis from the players, I think it's a good thing from that standpoint. But timeout, you might be taking it a little too far, Stephen. I am a little bit of a traditionalist, even though I do like the coaching aspect. But I don't know about the timeout yet.
Fair enough. That's overkill. Good stuff. Okay, that's Smash or Pass with Brad Stine, and that's another installment of The Slice, coming straight from Tommy Paul's coach, Brad Stine, on the tour. So we appreciate you, Brad. Thanks for flying in here and giving us your wisdom. And I guess, any parting words for our audience?
I mean, enjoy Wimbledon. The fortnight is coming. I think it's going to be a really great event, as it always is. But, every year creates a little bit of different kind of drama and excitement. So looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Good luck to you. Good luck to Tommy. And I'm sure we'll chat again soon.
All right. Thanks, Stephen.